I thought I was helping him become a better man. Every phone call, every visit, I'd find something to improve. His posture, his career choices, the way he talked to his wife. I called it love. I was wrong. When I was young, maybe 35, I believed parents had a duty, not just to feed and shelter, but to shape, to point out what could be better. My own father never said a kind word to me that wasn't earned, and I turned out fine, strong, capable. I thought that's what made good people. When my son was small, he'd run to me with drawings from school, crayon houses with crooked chimneys, stick figure families with too many arms. I'd look at them and say, "Good start. Next time, try to stay inside the lines." I thought I was teaching him standards. He'd nod and take the paper back, smoothing out the wrinkles. Sometimes he'd try again right there at the kitchen table. Sometimes he'd just put it away. I told myself I was preparing him for a world that wouldn't accept mediocrity, that wouldn't pat him on the head for trying. I was giving him tools. The criticism was always small, always reasonable, always wrapped in care. "You're slouching again. Maybe next time think before you speak. That's a nice shirt, but it would look better if you ironed it." Never cruel, never loud, just constant suggestions for improvement. He grew up, went to college, got married, had kids of his own. Our phone calls became monthly, then every few months. Brief updates, weather, work, the grandchildren's latest achievements, safe topics. "How's work going?" "Fine, Dad." "Just fine? You know, if you'd speak up more in meetings like I mentioned." "Yeah, I know." The conversations always ended the same way. Him saying he had to go, me feeling like I'd shared something valuable. I kept waiting for the right moment to really talk, to have one of those deep conversations fathers and sons were supposed to have. But he was always busy, always rushing off somewhere. I told myself we'd have time later. The years passed differently than I expected, quietly, one Christmas blending into another. His kids growing up in photos he'd text me, brief visits where he'd stay for exactly 2 hours, never longer. He became careful around me. I noticed it but didn't understand why. He'd share good news in the smallest possible doses. A promotion at work became, "got a new title." His daughter's honor roll became, "she's doing well in school." I'd ask for details and he'd give them, but reluctantly, like he was waiting for me to find the flaw, which I usually did. "That's great about the promotion. Just make sure you don't let it go to your head." "Honor roll is nice. Hope she's not just memorizing without really understanding." I thought I was keeping him grounded, realistic. He started mentioning visits less often, started forgetting to tell me about family events until after they happened, started screening my calls. When he did answer, his voice had a tired quality, like he was bracing himself. I blamed it on his generation, always rushing, always stressed, always on their phones. I blamed his wife, his job, the way the world had changed. I never blamed myself. Last month I was scrolling through Facebook. I barely use it, but sometimes I look for pictures of the grandkids. His daughter posts them sometimes. I saw a photo that stopped me. My son, gray around the temples now. 50 years old, though I'd lost track of exactly when that happened. He was sitting at a restaurant table, surrounded by friends and family. A birthday dinner. There was a cake, candles. Everyone was laughing. I wasn't there. I hadn't been invited. I hadn't even known it was his birthday. I sat there staring at the photo for 20 minutes, counting the faces around the table, his wife's parents, his brother-in-law, friends I'd never met, neighbors maybe, all these people who knew him well enough to celebrate with, people who made him laugh. I tried to remember the last time I'd heard him really laugh during one of our phone calls. Not the polite chuckle he'd give when I made a joke. Real laughter. I couldn't remember. I called him the next day. "Hi, Dad. I saw the photo from your birthday dinner. Looked nice." A pause. "Thanks. I didn't realize it was your birthday." "Yeah, well, we kept it small." Small. 15 people wasn't small. It was small without me. "Maybe next year we could—" "Dad, I have to go. I'm in a meeting." He wasn't in a meeting. It was Saturday. I could hear cartoons in the background, his kids watching TV. That's when I understood. I'd spent 50 years turning myself into someone he had to manage, instead of someone he wanted to talk to. Every conversation became a test he had to pass. Every achievement became an opportunity for me to find the missing piece. I made myself exhausting. I made myself unsafe. He learned to protect himself from me by sharing less, by keeping his distance, by building a life that felt better when I wasn't in it. And I never noticed because I was too busy trying to help. The missed birthday wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an oversight. It was him finally admitting what had been true for years. He didn't need me anymore. Not for advice, not for wisdom, not for validation. Maybe he never had. I think about calling him now and saying something different. Something like, "I'm proud of you," without any conditions attached. Something like, "I love who you became," without suggesting improvements. But I've been who I am for too long. And he's been protecting himself from who I am for too long. I don't know how to start a conversation anymore without finding something to fix. And he doesn't know how to talk to me without waiting for the criticism to land. We're both too old and too set to change the dance now. I see other fathers and sons sometimes, at restaurants, in stores, talking easily, laughing together, making plans. I wonder what I could have said differently, what I could have noticed sooner, how many times I could have just said, "Good job," and stopped talking, how many times I could have asked, "How are you feeling?" instead of, "What could you do better?" How many conversations I could have ended with him wanting to call me back instead of relieved to hang up. You think you have time to fix things, to get it right later, to have that important conversation when the moment is perfect. But people stop waiting for you to get it right. They stop hoping you'll change. They stop believing you see them clearly. They build lives that work without you. And by the time you realize what you've lost, they've already learned to be happy with you gone. My son turned 50 without me there to see it. He has friends who know his favorite foods, who remember his birthday, who make him laugh. I'm proud of him for that. I just wish I could have been one of them. Maybe you still have time to be someone your people want to call. Maybe you still have chances to see them clearly instead of seeing what needs fixing. I hope you take them.